all, welcome to Guru Grit. I'm hoping that for today's video we can hopefully alleviate some of the fear and just provide answers to some of the questions that I've gotten in the past 2 weeks, some of the questions I've had myself past 2 weeks, and I'm going on 3 weeks very soon since recent world events. I did upload a video since then that states a very important quote by Edgar Cayce, how in fact a human's thoughts can alter events. And if you've been around for some time, then you might know I've discussed Henry C. Roberts' book. I've been obsessed with Nostradamus since my very first year as a teenager. So since I was 13, and I think I've read most, if not all, of his quatrains, and I've been going through this book religiously. You know me, I'm color coding everything. So I've looked up anything I could find on the use of nuclear weapons, and I've also then cast some charts. So I'm just going to set this video up for what I'm going to speak about for the next few videos as well. I'll weave them in with some more topical things that are a bit more uplifting, but this is for the purpose of information and for the purpose of empowerment. So I'm not going to fearmonger here. I just don't believe in that. So you can prepare if it makes you feel better, but don't prepare out of a need to stress. So what I will say is we'll just take it astrologically. And I'm also going to infuse some things by Edgar Cayce. I'm not going to so much discuss Nostradamus at this time. I'll do it in a separate video that I'll devote to Edgar Cayce and Nostradamus, and maybe I'll include Baba Vanga as well, because I grew up with her and I love her very much. But the reason I mention them is because not all is as it seems. So why not get into that? So what kind of stage of the world are we in now? So bringing up Edgar Cayce, let's just get down to it. The question that I'm trying to answer that everybody has on their mind and they're quite fearful is there a third world war up ahead in the near future? So firstly, let's just get that out of the way. If you ask me, I believe the answer is no, not in the near future. Within the decade, perhaps, but we can offset prophecies. Okay, so I'll talk about that in another video. You do it through positive vibration, right? There's no such thing as I'm not a fatalistic astrologer. So you change the energy of something, it literally cannot crystallize, it cannot materialize in physical form. So if you change that trajectory, it cannot happen. So this is the point of all of this, is to make you feel like you are powerful enough. So you can't offset that. Secondly is, what about nuclear weapons? Everybody is bricking it over this. I totally understand. We're all terrified. I cried 3 days straight. I thought this is it. And then I was like, okay, what is the one thing? I was like, come on, brain, think of things. I was like, what is the one thing I know how to do? I was like, tell myself it's going to be fine. I'm like, okay, and you're almost there. I was like, look at birth charts. So I cast some charts. So I'm going to explain to you how I did it. Okay, so yes, there's potential for that. It's been prophesied for hundreds of years, if not millennia, to my knowledge, hundreds of years. And again, if it was to happen in the near future, not on a global level, which is a bit ridiculous because they're weapons of mass destruction. And our global community, economically, globalists have integrated us so much so that if one piece falls somewhere, there's an instant domino effect. So I'm going to try to get through this. I always say I'll get through it as fast as I can, and like 40 years later I'm just like, the second point is, but really let's just go for it. So as you know, if you got a chart reading from me, I do not acknowledge outer planets for individual readings. This is my personal style. Everybody is free to do as they choose. There are exceptions I will make when they're very obvious to me. And I use them in synastry and mundane astrology. Now, by no means, or no stretch of the imagination, and I'm a well-versed or skilled mundane astrologer, but I believe I know enough to know when something just makes sense. So let's start from Pluto in Capricorn. Pluto in Capricorn. 2008 to 2024, so we're very, very close to the end of that transit. And, things like it will do away with dreamy, escapist, tangible, all feeling, no logic kind of social trends or policy based things that base policies on something that's not really rooted in anything. Those things have to go. So end to dreamy tendencies, the reintroduction of realism, okay, the reintroduction of something much more tangible, something you can hold. Obviously it's going to do with restructuring, because Capricorn has a lot to do with institutions. It actually rules government. Okay, Capricorn rules power. It has a lot to do with authority. And then historically, this has been associated with social upheaval and large-scale violence in the 1300s in Europe. This led to huge violent outbursts, wars, social reformation, religious things, okay? Just bloodshed, left, right, and center. And this was actually what planted the seed for what we ended up getting was the Renaissance. So it led to the Age of Enlightenment. So anytime, it's like a rebirth, okay? So if something goes out, something must come in to replace it. And in this case, it was enlightenment. So the question you really do have the power to answer is, what do you want from this? Do you want a better world, or do you want to repeat the past? That is the question you put to all humanity. Now, one thing I have to mention is the emphasis that we've had, because when you look at outer planets, when you look at Neptune, Uranus, you look at Pluto, they're generational. So let's say some transits happened in the 90s or the early 2000s, so I should have referenced it better, but if you do go back and you look, it sets it up for a generation, okay? So in that case, you're looking at the birth of something, okay? So like 90s, 2000s, we had things just kind of starting to bud and take place with expanding the internet, dial-up internet, getting it into homes, then getting people's cell phones, Silicon Valley, but now we are where we are. So that's kind of like old news. So the question with this is like really in terms of restructuring and power, this was, I suppose, I'm a little bit like pro Aquarian energy. I'm like a lover of Uranus. I was born right on my Uranus line, so maybe that's it. But what do you want? Do you want to just call someone free thinking, innovative, and somebody who's really liberal, but actually they set things up in the same way as past systems, so they become oppressive. So one of the things Nostradamus and Edgar Cayce warn of is artificial intelligence. They both have prophesied it will end mankind. Now, before we get freaked out, Nostradamus's prophecies go well into the year 3000, so we've got a whole millennia left, so don't worry. So tech overlords, I've branded them tech overlords. They think they're better than you, they know better than you, because once upon a time they made an app or made a website or something, and now they've made a bunch of money, and now they get to make decisions that influence government. I mean, it's completely insane. This is this world is a circus, but here we are. So if we fail to prioritize spirituality and what I've written as the complexity of the human experience, we will form a new type of tyranny. You cannot dominate the human experience with logic, materialism, and measure success and monetary value alone. Those things are important. I like having nice things. Everybody says, what's your sign? I say the dollar sign. Okay, I'm kidding, but I live in the physical. I want to enjoy my life in the physical. I make no apologies about that. I make no excuses. I want to be successful. I want to have a good life. That's fine, but not without a purpose. Okay, the purpose to uplift others, to feel lovely, to share the wealth, to spoil the people around me, sharing the spoils. Okay, do you have something that drives you, that moves you? So I put spirituality. You have to have a moral, basically all of that to say you have to have a moral element to existing in the physical. So science is not here to dominate the spiritual. They're here to coexist. All right, some religions really speak about this, and they do so very effectively. So I think we all need to become more well versed in how we can coexist, not with each other, people who are super pro science or super pro spirituality, but within ourselves. We must merge the two to create a much more ideal world. If we don't, this is definitely the way it's going to go. So we have to try and curb that a bit. I've just included a quote here by Edgar Cayce, who what he referred to as the new breadbaskets of the world. And the reason I did this is because, which is get going into the next thing, people, we're entering, first of all, Edgar Cayce prophesied that, difficult things, including the third world, comes between the merging points or the transitionary points between the age of Pisces and the age of Aquarius. And the interesting thing is everyone is all doom and gloom about the environment. Like I said, I'm really into the environment. I'm really into my animal friends, being kind to human. I'm all into all of that. I care. I understand that we're an ecosystem. Every ecosystem is very delicate, needs balance. But in the age of information, there's a lot of misinformation. So in effect, if you think about the people who make decisions don't have to live with the consequences of those decisions, but people like us do. So I'm just here to tell you from my perspective, from what I see. I'm not saying anybody's right. I'm not saying I'm right. I'm just saying this is what I see and how I see the world. The girl who's on the way to her 8 to 5 job in an office, who stops for her one hit of dopamine in the day is to get a nice coffee and drink it through a plastic straw is not going to be the undoing of the world. Okay? The guy who wants to get a kind of some type of car or some kind of watch that's really expensive or something, or some kind of protein powder in plastic packaging is not going to be the undoing of the planet. It's going to be the decisions made by a very select few that impact the whole, if they get to that. Okay, we can hopefully curtail that. And the reason I mention this quote, and it's such an important one and it comes up quite a bit, is it will cause such destruction that it will restructure places that are currently known to be fertile and have arable land. Places that we don't really associate with agriculture will become agricultural centers of the world, and they will be responsible for feeding the world. Why? It's not the girl who asked for a straw at Starbucks, and it's not the guy who decided to buy a car that was an electric. It is in fact to do with, the topic of this video is nuclear warfare. So they all prophesied that this is going to be the undoing of the environment in such a big way. Okay, of course there's also natural disaster, but me being spiritual, I believe that's Mother Nature retaliating against low consciousness on the planet. So due to the current, situation on our planet, if you watch the news, you will understand what is going on. And so to just help answer a few questions quickly now, people have said, what about this place? I'm from here. What about da da da? So near future, I wouldn't say anybody is in grave danger. Nearish to middle future, places of concern regarding these things and general disruption. Okay, I'm not saying, I'm kind of scared to post this because I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm saying general uprising, general disagreement. I see problems with people who have neighbors, problems with the neighbors. Okay, so countries I've listed: Russia, India, Pakistan, USA. USA is interesting because in the nearish future, while other places are not doing so well, there will be like an upswing before they get involved in some kind of turmoil. So I think in the next year and a half, 2 years or so, I keep thinking of the end of that Pluto cycle, 2023, 2024. The US could be sitting pretty now and then get involved somewhere. Okay, Turkey's chart is crazy. It's quite volatile, and I'm going to show you that in mundane astrology in the future if I feel like it. I don't really like doing it, so I'm not going to. It just makes me stressed. I don't want to stress anyone. France, the reason I looked, I'm not going through like all 200 whatever countries in the world. I looked because I read the prophecies, and France really comes up for natural disasters, people leaving places, people being disgruntled with government. So in the next year, 2, 3 years, okay, but let's just say it's 2022 now, spring almost, I'm thinking up to 2025. Okay, 2025, 26 maximum. That's what I've said, like 2, 3 years from now. So maybe a year from now, maybe this year. This is not looking so good for 2022. This is another one. Again, I think something to do with the people not being quite happy, neighbors treading upon each other, and I'll talk about some other things. And then again, for nuclear things, these also make me a little bit nervous. So what I've done is I've looked at the chart of the nuclear bomb, because this is how I roll. I have to know the ins and outs of everything. And before I did that, I thought, okay, I'm going to look at it. But what I'm really curious about is like, who made this thing? Now, we all know who made this thing. So I looked at Oppenheimer's chart. The thing I found interesting, and this is what got me down this rabbit hole, sheer terror, which is so unlike my nature, is he actually has his natal North Node in Taurus and his Saturn in Aquarius. And we know that Saturn is currently in Aquarius and the North Node is in Taurus, tropical, okay? So I thought, oh no, but this is where the maker made the thing, and they always say the creator is greater than the thing created. Now the creator is no longer with us, so I'm a little bit relieved. But that got me thinking like, oh my God, what now? So the interesting thing then is, does that necessarily mean that that's going to happen now? No, but I can understand why that would, as the maker has the same natal transits, people talk about it, people worry about it. I think they're very valid concerns, but here's what I'm going to talk you out of it as best I can. So here we've got the chart. I've done just on astro.com here, Hiroshima, the 6th of August of 1945, 8:15 a.m. when it was dropped. The other thing I would have a look at is the actual chart. I believe it was at the Manhattan Project, had something else, something Trinity testing, I think. Anyways, I can't remember all the words. I can't do it sometimes. I'm on a lot of cold meds. I'm really, really hopped up and trying to make it to my dinner time. It's almost time to feed. It's almost time to feed. That's so creepy. The 25th of November of 1942, Los Alamos, New Mexico. Okay, if you want to go make a chart, I did. I just didn't want to post like 30 different things, so I didn't do that one. But that is apparently the testing center. And here we've got the first time it was dropped. And what you'll notice right away, oh, there was another historical event. I think it was the breakout of the Second World War. But Saturn makes a contact to the lunar nodes. And in this case, Saturn actually makes contact to the moon as well. And the moon is sandwiched between the nodes. Saturn is debilitated. The moon is in its own sign. Venus, that rules diplomacy, peacefulness, sharing, is, you know, getting obliterated here with this crazy conjunction. And the moon has to do with people. It's a very social planet. Venus is a very social planet. Saturn rules the masses, you know, and this is not, I can't say it's not a good combination. If you saw it in a birth chart, that's relative, you know, it just depends. But okay, I would think, oh no, because I'm thinking of the people. I'm thinking of the people. People who are into degree theory, who are onto some newer, I suppose, theories, might get really excited about something that they're seeing here as well. And then, this is the first thing I saw, okay? The 7th is going to be the public, and the ruler is Jupiter. Jupiter rules Pisces. And we've placed him in the first house, and he's debilitated in Virgo. This is no bueno. So we can see now, if we just look at the chart of a place, we look to the things that would identify that nation. So I would look at sensitive things like, you know, especially the 7th and the 4th house. I would look to the 3rd house, see if your neighbors are friendly to you. If you've got Saturn and Leo in the 3rd, you know, if you've got Moon conjunct Mars and they're debilitated, and like, you know, Mars is, let's say, debilitated or in the 4th house. If you've got, let's say, Saturn, Mars, and Aries in the 4th, and then the North Node is about to go over that in the next year and a half, you know, that's something I would concern myself with. I would think that's just aggressive, it's agitated, okay, things like that. So you can kind of look for those things. So I just wanted to show you. So I mean, if you bring up the chart of your homeland and you're kind of in the clear, then you're in the clear. If you're in the clear, you're in the clear. If you're not in the clear, you can take precautions. You can put plans into action now, okay? You don't have to be creeped out. So me being me, school is cool. I love the etymology of words. Usually when I start doing something, I just break down like the very definition of it and then I work from that. That's my idea of poetry, is being like extremely droll and predictable. Practicality is my idea of romance, so I've done just that. I'm looking for powerful transits by Uranus and Pluto. Uranus, so uranium. Uranus rules uranium, which is an element used in nuclear weaponry and therefore nuclear bombs. And Pluto has plutonium, which is a mineral used in advanced nuclear weapons. So I'm asking myself, are these going to square? Are these going to agitate sensitive houses and planets in the charts of specific places? And if I don't see it on a global level, if I don't see it on a level of a country that's highly unstable or country that's very militarized, I feel calm. Okay, so for now, I'm cool, and I'm cool as a cucumber. 9-10 years from now, I'm not going to be so cool. If we don't wake up and get our stuff together, I'm not going to be so chill. Okay, next I wanted to mention this star. Interestingly, you know, so I mentioned the 25th of November chart, and, you know, also look to Mars-Saturn aspect. So Mars and Saturn, of course, oppose each other in that chart, and Mars is in Scorpio, if I'm not mistaken. I've looked at a lot of things today, and I did readings this morning, so I might be a little bit scrambled. Someone did ask me lovingly on the live earlier, how much coffee do you drink? And I said, I don't. This is just my personality. But Antares is I believe it's the heart, the fixed star is the heart of the Scorpion in the Scorpio constellation. So it would fall to tropical, it would fall to, I think, 9 degrees Sagittarius or something like that. It adorns an individual or an event with intelligence, bravery, courage, endurance. They're noble, they're honorable, they're wealthy. Okay, power. You reap the spoils of your efforts. The downside is going to be nuclear warfare, social, religious, ethnic, racial division, violence. It rules fire, of course, nuclear activity, destruction. So I'm looking for anything going through that star. I'm looking for any mundane chart of a country that has anything around there. Okay, the closer to it, the more it's high time. I'm thinking about that. Aspects being made to it, or look through previous transits, what's been there, and then what ensued in the following years, or is that still rubbing off? Okay, are we getting closer to something like that, or a certain place getting closer to something like that natally, something going over it? All right, just little things we can do, okay? Then back to the more expansive view here. Beautiful, beautiful sign, beautiful, beautiful planet, Neptune and Pisces. So I've titled it Hope for the World or Total Destruction. And why would I say that? And so this is transits 2012 to the early part of 2026. So you see, I didn't really look beyond that. The downfall of this is going to be dreaminess, distraction through media, distraction through entertainment, hyper sexuality, drug use, alcoholism. It's escapism in all of its forms, okay? Overeating, emotional eating, gossip. So anything you do to escape reality that doesn't actually serve you or others. So if we overdo it, let's say on social media platforms, or if we overdo it with excessive shopping and or something, just anything, pretty much anything you do for fun that actually ends up hurting you. This isn't cool. But what we need to do is utilize the prowess of this transit, which is going to be relying on our, what I call spiritual hygiene. Okay, are you clean from the inside out? Do you think pure thoughts? Do you wish the best for others? What you do for another, what you think for another, what you wish for another, you ultimately wish for yourself. Can you discipline yourself internally, discipline your thoughts, discipline your emotions? Can you uplift yourself and others? Can we join together and be compassionate and generous? Okay, this is a really beautiful thing, and I'm really hoping for the Piscean energy to win out at the end of the day. And I do know that it can lead to a lot of hypocrisy. Pisces rules hypocrisy, it rules religion. So, and Neptune is very heady and like romantic and sweet, so it can confuse. So like, it doesn't have to be strictly like churches or something. But what is the new religion in society? Like, what do we agree with, disagree with? What do we fight over? Is there a stream of thought that's really dominant, or that you feel forced to obey, or a lifestyle that you don't agree with? Are you afraid to speak out? Let's say something small. Me and my friends are like currently job seekers, and we all dislike LinkedIn intensely. We're like, why is everyone on this? This just blows. But it's like, it can just be a little thing. So find a better way to do something. You don't have to adhere. We have to have diversity, and all of our needs are different. Like, we all have an inherent need to love and be loved, but how we do that is up to us. So this is a very nice time for like spirituality and godliness to prevail, to be holy, to be whole, and to be moral, okay? Now, what this can lead to is the collapse of mass organizations, because I mentioned Pluto and Capricorn will tear away from the old, but because it rules time, it can keep some of the past. This is what I was mentioning about the tech overlords. We might keep them in power. We don't want that. So this is where Neptune and Pisces comes to save the day. It can introduce compassion, change how we do things. So here I've said corporations and religious institutions, be wary of what you vote for. Power struggles will ensue. Okay, information and misinformation will be prevalent. Old ways of doing things will collapse, but some essence will be necessary to take with us to build a new world. So let's say, we don't want to work 9 to 5s in office buildings anymore, as an example. Some people will want to. I personally would like a hybrid schedule, okay? So there's a little bit of this, a little bit of that. But we must make room for everyone. And so we cannot have this one size fits all. You can't make everyone happy. So you cannot have a one size fits all policy at the end of the day, or lifestyle, or culture. You will always have a dominant, prevalent thing, but not at the expense of the people. Okay, the people will still have to be able to go out and make money how they need to make it and do what they want to do and so forth. Okay. And also another thing, it's just a side note, culturally I've seen everybody like being into hustle culture and chasing their passion. I'm very blessed to have a very wise auntie. She's actually a Capricorn as well, just like my mom. And she said, some people are idea people. She always used to say to me, you're just going to do what you want to do. She says, I have zero interest in that. She says she works at an accounting firm. She's an accountant. She got a degree in math. She did her thing. And she said, I like going to work from 7 to 3. Someone makes my schedule. I go in there, I get my money. And when I leave, I do whatever I want. I don't have to worry about how they're calculating taxes, retirement, this, that. She's like, you're the kind of person you can worry about that. She's like, I have zero interest in burdening my life with such a thing. It's not my passion. And I said, she's absolutely right. And in the ideal world, we give people the option. We don't tell them what's best for them. So this is what I mean. You must take some of the old. You must have that structure that's really Capricornian. You must have that discipline and that rigidity, but then give people an opportunity to build on that. Okay, we must learn from our past and not be dragged back into it. We will devolve otherwise. Okay, Neptune will help in this. This is what I mean. Neptune in Pisces dissolves things easily. Neptune in general is a dissolving quality. So it can liberate us from this repressive Capricornian energy and then hopefully flood the world with compassion rather than constant entertainment and news and being plugged into high stress everything. And of course this takes work. So this is where we do need some of that Capricornian energy. We do need something to remind us. I'll make that red because I'm really serious, you know. We have to, but the work is internal. Okay, so remember Pisces is oceans, and when oceans meet we get choppy waters. So it is a transitionary period, but if we're willing to see the world be a better place, we must start on the individual level and embrace things as they come. There will be problems. That's not the issue. It's how you go about solving them. Okay, so how are we going to make the world a better place, starting with one person at a time? Here I've written pale plus, I think that's meant to be people's. That's all right. People's thoughts and actions keep many a city and many a land intact. And this is a quote by Edgar Cayce. So quite truly, sending your prayers, sending your positive energy. I've been in deep reflective thought. I've been in deep everything, just in deep prayer each night before bed and every morning. I haven't missed a single day since turning on the news almost 3 weeks ago, sending out so much love to the world, sending out so much love to the people who need it the most. And I want to mention that you are quite powerful. There's a quote by Terence McKenna who says, you are a divine being. You matter, you count. You come from realms of unimaginable power and light, and you will return to those realms. And so I think a part of this is to make a bit of that realm on Earth here now. And I just forgot to go over this one part. I said collapse of massive organizations and governments. I do feel there could, Europe in general, European Union is looking feeble in the next couple of years. United Nations is, I think someone said like around the 90s the United Nations might end. So that's still possible. I'll put a little of that. And then NATO is just also, they're looking quite feeble. It's looking weak. And I'm not saying I wish the end of anything. I'm just saying I don't think that they will be here for us to take into the new world. I think we'll have new forms of governance, and I just hope that we choose correctly, something that benefits all human beings. So thank you so much for listening. Again, reminder that you come from realms of unimaginable power, and you can summon that power. There's a saying by Abraham, they said, one who's in alignment with source is more powerful than millions who are not. We're not kidding you. And there's also the 2 points that one who is with God is the majority. And then 2, with God all things are possible. So thank you so much. I hope it's alleviated some concerns, and I will continue to do more, and I will continue to speak about, I will mention the economy in another video. And apart from that, there's other things I want to mention. Maybe I will get into what happens 10 years from now, but in the near future, I'm going to stick to the quatrains of Nostradamus and the prophecies of Baba Vanga and Edgar Cayce, and just go through weaving them at points where they all overlap to highlight that, and then look at some transits that could really signify those things, and then talk about like how we could feel better to hopefully avoid them, because they do mention that you can steer clear. These things are not set in stone. In fact, you can steer clear of them if you raise the vibration of yourself and thus the planet. So thank you for being here. I appreciate you, and I love you all very much. Until next time, bye bye for now.